Said this was going to be one of the most interesting title races for a long time. A season where the finest of margins will settle so much for the key teams. And this past weekend, Arsenal and Liverpool slipped up in crucial games to give Man City a slim advantage, something which they don't need any more of. They have 115 other advantages. But anyway, we're going to talk about those results and what impact that might have at the top of the table, as well as having a little look at the bottom and to see how things are going to go for those teams down there. This is One Kick from Glory. It's myself and Matthew here today.
What's up?
And we're going to start off with the game that kicked it all off, really. And that was Liverpool versus Crystal Palace, a match at Anfield. You know, this is being the farewell tour for Jurgen Klopp. And I think with that, there's a lot of added pressure on the players to perform and to make sure that they're able to deliver good results for him and ultimately for their fans to make sure they have a great send-off. But this result wasn't one of them. For you, Matthew, how did you look at and how did you react when you saw the result between Liverpool and Crystal Palace?
I was surprised. I always did say on the show that I think Liverpool will be the ones to crack the most. And, I'm starting to be shown why I thought I was right about it in the first place. But did I expect them to be losing against Crystal Palace? I didn't. Nowhere in a million years. But you got to give credit to Palace on their defensive display. It's not so much that Liverpool couldn't find their shooting boots. Palace just defended like their absolute lives depend on it. And the perfect way so in these kind of games where they'll score a goal, they'll nick a goal off the break like they did, and they will sit. And it works. And they absolutely stifled any little thing that Liverpool had. And it's still a surprise to say at this part of the end, towards the end of the season, where the margin for error is just so fine. And they blinked real hard to the point that even Daddy Cool himself, Jurgen Klopp, said he's not normally negative about his team, but this is one of the first ones where he was like, this was hard to look at. I couldn't look. And you know what? This could be a start of a bit of a downturn because they had that Europa League defeat at Atalanta only but a few days earlier.
It's true.
And the games are only getting more crucial as they go. Not necessarily more difficult, but they're getting more crucial. Obviously, with that last game against Spurs on the last day of the season, which at that point I'm expecting them to be a bit further away from the title race anyway. It's still going to play its part especially for you guys anyway. But it was a shock just to see such a vibrant attacking team just wilter and falter like that. I mean, if I were a Liverpool fan, I'd find that very hard to watch, knowing just what's at stake. Like give your all for this guy who, is a legend of the club, who loves the club, he loves Liverpool. Give it your all for this. But I just think that their tiredness is kicking in. They were working hard. They were fighting on 4 fronts at one point. I'm going to say they're only really fighting on one more, if I'm being honest. But no, it was a surprise. But again, credit to Crystal Palace. They absolutely defended that. That is not a defender.
But would you say that when you say that they're fighting on one front, would you think is that more down to the fact that they've lost 2 in a row, one in the Europa and obviously this one in the league itself?
I just think I said before again, with the 3 teams going ahead, I just see them faltering just a little bit easier, just because of the injuries they have, the holes that they have, and the fact that hanging over them is that thing that Klopp is going. He's got just over less than 10 games left, depending on how they progress in their Europa League game, the second half. They've only got a handful of games left with this guy, so it all changes after that, and it's going to be a bit of a hangover once the new season comes around. Whereas with your 2 managers, they're not going anywhere, and they're fighting harder for this league, and regardless of the results, it's eventually going to come down to a 2-horse race. That being said, we'll talk about it later. I don't think that this title race is over like a lot of people are saying. There's a lot more to be said.
Yeah, there's a lot more football to play, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out. I think just going on the game itself, I mean, it's one of those weird ones because on any other day, Liverpool would have comfortably won that game, maybe 5-1, 6-1 maybe, because they made so many chances. A lot of it is a massive credit to Crystal Palace, how they defended in that game. I think Tyrick Mitchell, in fact, the whole back five, And including in midfield, the young Adam Wharton or Warburton, who got his, or Wolfton, who they signed in January from, I think it's on Bolton for like 20 million.
like a really
A lot
fun
of money
signing.
for an 18-year-old, but he showed that he's ready to step up to the man's game, and definitely was one of the key players for them in how he pressed the ball, how he moved the ball on. His passing was crisp. His ability to just play the system that the manager really wanted them to play, which is really key. And I think for me, again, like just looking at those kind of finishes, or rather, Nunes had a hatful of chances.
So many.
Salah had a few chances. I could just name the whole attacking team. Do you think ultimately for Liverpool that their inability to convert chances at this latter stage of the season, because I mean throughout the whole year they've had chances wasted. I mean I think Nunes has had over 100 shots in the Premier League this season, and you look at how many goals he's scored. It's like there's work to be done there. But do you think ultimately that their finishing is going to be the defining thing that's really going to mar what has been a good season for them?
It's already starting to show that just a little bit, because like you said, on any other day they would have put at least half of those away. But you like someone like Nunes, if that's Haaland per se, he's putting away a good chunk away of those goals. All right, he's not reaching the heady heights he was last season, but he still managed to get 20 goals in a quieter season for him. And figuring as that him and Nunes came over the Premier League at the same time, and after that game he had against Liverpool in the first place, which is why they bought him, he kind of expecting a more impressive return. He has had a better season than he had last. He's still kind of finding his feet in, but I think it's gonna be a case where it's going to be another season and a half before he really starts firing on the levels that you can get there. He's still finding his feet, and I think the defenses are getting a lot tougher in this Premier League because the managers are travelling around a lot more. I mean, I forgot the manager Palace have he's a Europa League winner.
Oliver Glasner.
Yeah, he's a winner. That winning mentality also comes in defence. No matter who you have, whether it's some League One man, if you teach them the right methods, you coach them properly, anyone can do it. I realised that when we played them in the Carabao Cup, playing against sixth formers, and they absolutely scored us. It doesn't matter. With someone like Salah, he goes through like peaks and troughs, but you can't really say, again, for those saying he has a bad season, if you look at his numbers, they still hold up. He's still getting goals. He's just not getting as many goals. And you argue with someone like him, what's his Liverpool future look like? Is he going to be going along the way with Klopp? Same with someone like Virgil. Are they going to try and bring him some more talent or work with the younger talent they have already there? Their generation of Mane, Salah, and Firmino, that's slowly coming to an end. He's the last soldier fighting that fight. The new ones have got to step up a little bit more, and they're going to have to realise that, Liverpool prides itself on that finishing. And, you're seeing right now what happens when you don't finish properly, especially in the last two games. It costs. I mean, who did they play before Palace, but even before Atalanta? I can't remember who they play against, actually.
I'd have to bring it up.
Play against, because I'm convinced that they won. Pretty sure.
Wasn't that Man United? They drew 2-2. Man United, they drew 2-2.
It was Man United, yeah, again. So, and again, pundits had that as a 6-1 home bagger to Liverpool.
So that's 3 back-to-back poor results. So you 2-2 draw against Man United, a really poor Man United team who do, like we said in that episode, they do stand up when it comes to Liverpool, but a very poor Man United team. To lose to Atalanta, who, to be fair, are a very underrated team.
Very good team.
In Europe. And actually, when you look at their record in Serie A, they are one of the better teams in that league. So definitely a team that should be respected more. But losing to Crystal Palace at home, that's the one where you think, okay, that's a bit ridiculous now.
Yeah, booze at Anfield, man.
And even for me, I think it was the reaction of Klopp on 1-0. He just went, oh, wow. Yeah. Let's be fair. It's an exceptionally well-crafted goal by Crystal Palace. Brilliant passing. I think over 20 passes they put together to create the opportunity for Eze. The understanding of the players, Eze, Elise, that's probably one, I think that's like the 4th game they've played together. They've started together this season, which is outrageous considering their quality. But Eze, Elise, and Mateta, that 3, how well they dovetailed with each other and just made things work so well. And then going to a back 5 system, he played Tyreek Mitchell as a left wing back. He had Jonathan Lerma, who is a midfielder by trade, was signed as a midfielder. He had him playing as a 3rd centre back. Crazy. But what it did is it created a platform for them to build from. And then they had, good passers like Adam Wharton, the young guy, and Will Hughes. Will Hughes is a bit like Marmite. Some fans like him, some fans don't. He was great a few seasons back, and he's kind of regressed. But he had a great game. And then Nathaniel Klein at right back, who really just turned back the years as well. So they had a brilliant system. And they're not dismissing the two players who were really instrumental, the captain, Joaquin Anderson, who was showing you the player that's been linked to all the biggest clubs, and the goalkeeper in Dean Henderson, who he was arguing to be Man United's first choice a couple of seasons ago. The managers didn't believe in him that much. Went off to Burnley, had a great season, came back.
Or he was at Forest for a bit.
Forest,
Yeah.
was a bit hit and miss. And then so far, Palace has not really kicked the ground running. But this match was a match where you can say, okay, here Henderson's arrived. But yeah, I think Palace have a lot of credit for going ahead. But Liverpool, with all they made, should have done enough to win it.
And also Dean Henderson, you have to remember when Sheffield United came up and had that brilliant season, he was the one in the sticks. They finished what, 9th?
Yeah.
So it shows.
Yeah, so he's a really good goalkeeper and one that definitely deserves more credit and more opportunities to play. And we'll see how it goes. I guess Liverpool now, the big question is, we know they've had a lot of injuries this season and it's really affected the rhythm of what they could do. They had Alisson back at the weekend. He made a great save, several great saves to stop Palace going 2 and 3-0 ahead. I know he had one from Mateta, 1v1, which I don't even know how he saved it, but he did. And then Robertson's come back as well. And I think Trent and Jota are getting their fitness back.
And Robertson clearance was so vital.
Yeah, the game a brilliant 1v1, amazing chip, and then Robertson gets back. But how much do you feel like, again, the injuries Liverpool have had this season, how has that, in a way, it hasn't really dented them too much because with the injuries they've had, they've been able to maintain a great performances with the youngsters. But how important do you think it is now for them in this run-in, getting these key players back and now being able to kind of put their strongest team forward to really try and first turn around that Europa League tie and secondly have a good run at the title?
For the sake of giving Klopp a really good tour, the players that come back have got to give their absolute all in these next 6 games because there are no more, especially in the last 10 games of the season, especially where we are now, there are no more easy games. Doesn't matter who you play, doesn't matter the situation we're in, whether they're just fighting for a good place on the table or Europe, and especially if you're fighting a relegation team, nothing's easy anymore. So these players, when they come back, they have to go hard. They have to. This is now where, I know there's a tournament coming up, but at some point you decide what's more important, what your club's success is, or the off chance you might do something in the internationals. I mean, to be there for a lot of players is a no-brainer, but they have to just even for the sake of their guy there, give him that absolute 100%. I mean, if you don't want them to give 100%, that's fine on my part. But for the Liverpool fans' sake, to give him that they give him a nice sort of thing to have. They've got 1 trophy in the bag. Let's see how many more they can go. They can send him off on a proper, as a thank you, because he has been instrumental to the club. It has to be said. They were in a bit of no man's land before he came, and he's kind of brought them back to where they think they deserve to be. And these players have to go just dig right in and just give their all now. What have we got to lose? To be really honest, what have we got to lose by going hard?
Really. Yeah, they've really got to dig their feet in and try and make a difference. And we'll see how it all ends up for them. But they weren't the only team this weekend who had a disappointing result. Arsenal joined them because, it takes 2 to tango. And of course, we decided to have our bozo moment against Unai Emery. And I feel like both games have a lot of parallels in them in terms of when you weigh up the odds of everything. I think both Villa and Crystal Palace deserved their wins. I think both Liverpool and Arsenal made enough chances to win the game, irrespective of everything else. I feel like Villa and Crystal Palace had opportunities to make the win even bigger. I mean, Villa had the Ollie Watkins chance earlier in the first half when he hit the post. He had the Tielemans shot, which went crossbar, post, out. There was a few saves and blocks in there as well. Chances that the game could have been a much different thing. But I think one of the things with the Arsenal game, and a lot of Arsenal fans, I think you should just calm down. This is our first defeat in 2024. And I know that when you think about what we're playing for, it feels a lot worse than what it is. Like a 2-0 defeat at home is bad in any given circumstances. Losing to Unai Emery is bad as well for multiple reasons, But ultimately, Villa are a really good team. And they did their job. Where we went wrong is not creating our chances. And for you, Matthew, when you look at that, and I've thought of it as it was a game of 2 halves. I think Arsenal dominated the first half.
Definitely.
And then from 60 minutes on, Aston Villa just turned up the heat. And they just kept chipping and grinding away until the 82nd or 83rd when they got their first goal. And then obviously killed it off in stoppage time with Leon Bailey. But how much do you think Arsenal need to learn from this game, but not let it be a defining moment in the season.
This is what happened to you guys last year, because I think you lost the game and then you lost another one and practically handed them the trophy. So I think a lot of the players that were here last year who are in the same position are going to realise that, whereas like it's our first, like you said, the first defeat of the calendar year. If it's not, it should not knock our confidence that much. For all we did, what we did in the first half, there are positives to take away from the game, even if there are only from really one half. And you know, you always get that one game where it's going to be a bit of a duck, where for all what you do, it's just not going to happen, and you know it's not going to happen. But it's not all lost. If there was 3 games left, I would be saying I'll be feeling like that. You got 6, and like I said before, there are the easy games have run out. Another team, Man City could slip, Liverpool could slip even more. There's so much and a lot of football to play for that it's still very much. The title's not decided yet. It's just no longer in your control, because all you had to do beforehand was just win. Just keep on winning. That's what you got to do. Is just focus on what you're doing. But you know, Villa have also got an agenda as well. They're going for that Champions League spot. They're also in the hunt for a trophy themselves. So it's not like you're playing cannon fodder. You're playing a very well organised, very well coached, very well coached from a winning manager. So it's no real shame. There's no real shame in that. You know, like you said, another day, half those chances you had would have gone in. You know, the fans, I think, need to just relax a little bit. I would love to be in your position, to be brutally honest. If I was, a mess up away from winning a title or something, not to mention the other competition that's on the line as well. But no, I think the players there, with how well he's drilled them, are disciplined and organised enough and calm enough to realise that this is not over. And next game you have with the league game, which I believe is
Wolves on the 20th.
Wolves, and then you got us after that on the Tuesday. This it's not over.
It's definitely not over, and we're going to go into the fixtures a little bit and kind of talk about what's to play for and how it could all kind of potentially shape up. But I know that a lot of fans are upset about some of the team selection today at the game. Like, why did Zinchenko start? Why did Trossard start as well? Trossard's miss. The Martinez save, but realistically, it's a miss from Trossard.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10 this season, he puts that away, no problem. Yeah. In fact, the equaliser against Bayern Munich was a harder chance. Similar type of cutback slot. He did it there, didn't do it this one. It happens. Havertz had so many chances created by Zinchenko. He didn't take today.
That was Chelsea Havertz there for a moment.
He didn't take them. But the thing for me, which is I found a bit weird, is how fans are talking about how Zinchenko isn't good enough for Arsenal anymore and all this kind of stuff. I do think our team has evolved weirdly. Like, when you think about it, when we signed Jesus and Zinchenko, they raised the possibility of this team. This is a team that was nowhere near conversations for a title race for a very long time. In fact, the last title race we had was 2016 when Leicester won it. That's it. And in that one, everyone could say we bottled it. After that, obviously, we know we had last season. But that last season wouldn't have happened without those two players coming in and giving the players the belief that we can actually challenge for a title. Yeah. So before then, the aim was Champions League football. And we bottled that. So I think that people need to accept that. And it's how you evaluate things. Yes, our team is evolving away from how we play with Jesus and Zinchenko. And you could argue, maybe Arteta should have kept the team that we've had throughout this whole time, have Kivior left back, have Havertz through the middle, and stuck to that system. But I stick by the same point. If Havertz scores those couple of goals, Zinchenko can come off at halftime or 60 minutes. No problems. Because he doesn't take them, Zinchenko's deficiencies are exacerbated, because as the game goes on, we've noticed with him, his focus kind of drifts a little bit. He starts being the deepest man. It's the same thing we had last season in a game where I think him and Ben White had a massive row after the match. He just drops back. He doesn't hold the line when it gets too stressful. When he's a bit tired, he just sort of drops off. He is a midfielder. Let's not forget that. He is a midfielder. For his country, he plays number 10. Man City, they played in left back because it's like he ain't good, better than any of the other players they have in midfield. And for Arsenal, we've kind of kept him there, but we've created a role where he basically plays in midfield anyway from left back. So I'm not overly surprised by what happened. I just feel like as fans, we need to take a chill pill and analyze things properly. Yes, we should have beat them. Yes, we should have done more at the Etihad against Man City to make that not a draw. But we've lost now. Let's not lose our heads. We shouldn't have even left the stadium no one should have left the stadium. We should have stayed there and cheered to the end because you never know. Look at Bournemouth last season.
Yeah.
We thought it was done.
Dead and buried.
Then Reece Nelson swings in a wonder goal. No one left then. But now all of a sudden, we're now back to bougie Arsenal fans. Get over yourselves, man. But I do have to give credit to Unai Emery. And I did say a while ago that I think one of the things that he's really great at is how he works with strikers. And what he is getting out of Ollie Watkins this season cannot be downplayed or ignored. How impressed are you with Ollie Watkins' development? And do you think he is definitely on the plane for the Euros?
Oh, without a doubt, man. Without a doubt, we need to. If we're not, if for all of what Harry Kane does with England, despite the fact that he does the one thing that I can't stand is keeps dropping back in the system that Gareth Southgate has, turning in provider. No, keep him in the box. That's where you want him. And it just goes to show when, a different style of coaching, and it's what Ollie Watkins is. He's always ready to go and pounce on that goal. And as a result, he's right up there with the, top scorers in the league. And it was a fantastic goal as well. Really confidently taken. He's like scoring the big games. He scored against us. He likes scoring in London. He scored against us. He scored against you. I'm pretty sure he scored against Brentford as well. But he 100% has to be going to on the plane. And I'll be saying that there's a bit of competition between him. He's the closest competition to Harry Kane. So some games he should be starting because it just gives something new in the camp rather than playing this over formulated style that he knows. I know we've seen it in the friendlies and it didn't work, but that's because he's not encouraged to go for it. He's not encouraged to attack so much. He's been so put into a system that he's almost like he's strangled. But he allowed them this free reign. They were able to go out and do their thing, to have the confidence to go ahead and chip the keeper in such a high-profile game, against an Arsenal team, which you could argue in the first half could have been miles ahead, and to still go ahead and do that. He will go, and I think Southgate knows he kind of has to pick him because the options behind are good, but they're not winners.
I think it'll be Kane, Tony, and
Watkins.
It
kind of has to be.
I think Tony stylistically is probably the closest to Kane in the hold-up play and everything else, and Watkins is just a different option.
Yeah.
Who do you think he reminds you of from like England strikers of old? Who does Watkins remind you of?
Boy, he's kind of got that kind of exuberance. He doesn't play like him, but he's kind of got that kind of exuberance and that kind of that wolfness of playing of like saying someone like Andy Cole a little bit. Just the way he moves and just like how that t-shirt kind of sits on him a little bit, like proper like Fox in the box. You could say that he could have been like a Jermaine Defoe, Andy Cole sort of thing. Is always in the right place. He's a bit of a pincher as well, and he's a good option to have. He's a good servant. Andy Cole was a good servant for England. Jermaine Defoe was a good servant to England. Jermaine Defoe's career went way off into like almost his late 30s. He just kept on going. Why? Because he spent time in where he was meant to be, in that box, nicking them cheeky little goals. And as a striker, if you want to get your numbers up and get to that record, that's what you do. And it's no surprise that Jermaine Defoe got over 100 goals in the Premier League. Andy Cole got over 100 goals in the Premier League. And if he keeps up this way and he stays in the Premier League, I've got no doubt Ollie Watkins can do that as well. He's got age on his side. He's always fit. He's in a system that allows him that freedom of expression to go out and actually do these sort of things. It's entirely possible. It's just that kind of, with Harry Kane, you get someone, he moves slower, but that's because he has a second part of his game, like a Drogba, like a Tony, even like, dare I say it, like a Heskey, where they will hold. And they still manage to get their goals. They just do it differently. Whereas someone like Watkins is just pace and speed and electricity. He might get bodied off the ball, but he's in that box to get the goal anyway.
I guess our final things for tonight. Obviously, we saw Chelsea pull out all the guns against Everton, thrash them. I guess really briefly, Matthew, how do you look at that result and what's your kind of thoughts on your performance from the team?
Best performance of the season, absolutely. And despite the fact that Everton were knocking on that door quite early, just snuffing it away in the first half, knowing full well what we can do, just shows that there's something working there. We just haven't seen it enough in enough games. But very few players I'm looking at who didn't really pull their job, constantly getting the ball forward. Every time we're getting the ball, dare I say it was exciting for the ball because it looked like we're going to get something out of every single time. Holding our lines really, really well defensively. Obviously, they got their goal, but it was offside. And just playing with a slight little bit more of organisation and the team kind of coming together. Certain players will get mentioned, obviously, but certain players don't get mentioned in how much they've improved over time. Gusto's one, he's getting better every single time. Cucurella, disaster last year, has come on leaps and bounds. This year, Conor Gallagher, he's not sliding in so keenly anymore, and as a captain, which we'll talk about in a minute, he's kind of finding his feet a little bit. And just having that addition of Thiago Silva with that reassuring presence in defence is just so reassuring. Like he hasn't got long left at the club, but just seeing him there gives him a nice send-off for a guy who hasn't been there for that long, who's had such an impact. Nice seeing Trevor Chalobah. He was a guy who was on his way out. It was nice to see him get him some minutes. Sterling wasn't to be seen, which, to be honest, I'm fine with. Keep playing Mudryk. He needs those games to kind of find where he is in this squad. Even Enzo Fernandez not there, absolutely fine. Like I said, I think thrives just a little bit more when he's not necessarily there. But an all-round happy camp, and I don't want it to what we'll talk about eventually, I don't want it to kind of mar what was a really good performance.
Yeah, we talked about, again, you mentioned the all-round happy camp. Obviously, we had the incident with the penalty. And I quite liked how Dele Alli put it as well on Monday Night Football. And he said that, you don't see these players rushing to gather the ball when it's a pressure situation, it's a 0-0, it's a tight 1-1, it's a goal to win it. But now that you guys are happily winning the game, coasting, they want to create drama. And the annoying thing, I guess, for Poch, and he said this is never going to happen again. That's the end of it. Cole Palmer's designated penalty taker, and if he decides he wants someone else to take it, then so be it. But how pathetic did it look? Madu Kreli, this is not the first time this season he's done the same instance where he's running for the ball for a penalty. Jackson's obviously desperate to score goals. I'm sorry, mate, you get enough chances in a match. Finish your chances. Then you can get your goals. But like you were saying, how do you what's your summary of that instant, like briefly again?
I know beforehand that Poch was like, he's going to leave it to the players. And I think after that, I think he's learned that it's like in a game like that with the world to see and the fact that we were winning, it just makes it look really, really bad. Because if that was a final situation, it would look worse. Remember with the whole Kepa situation not coming off, not saying it led to our loss, but the fact that we lost didn't look good. And this is something that I was saying in the game where it's like, we could have been winning 6-0. If he's our penalty taker, he's our penalty taker. The guy hasn't missed one since. You name Man City, Man United. He hasn't. He's been cool as a cucumber, slotted away every single one with the potential going for a golden boot. I'm sorry, but if anyone like he said, if anyone's decision is up to deny it, to give a penalty to someone else, it should be down to him. And this is true because I'm going to go back a few years. 2010, May, Chelsea Wigan, we win the title, right? We get a couple goals up fairly easily, right? Get a penalty. And Drogba's fighting for it because he wants to go for the golden boot against Wayne Rooney. And Lampard's like, nope, this is business. Let's get this out of the way. And if another opportunity comes along and if we get another penalty, it will be yours. Because we had business. We had a title to win. However, how he might have felt, because Lampard's a penalty taker, for Chelsea at least, he's pretty good. He was good. And as per usual, he slots it home. He's our penalty taker. And lo and behold, another chance comes up in the game. Business is done. We're comfortable. They ain't going to do nothing. Let him have his penalty. Got his golden boot. So I think and the captain, John Terry there at the time, he ain't allowed that to happen. And as much as I was praising Conor Gallagher for his efforts, I think him as a captain has got to work on things like that. Whereas like he's made this decision, that's it. For the sake of the team, like he is our assigned taker, and only he can make that decision if he don't want it. But that's his decision to make. And I think it's better to go that way because that sets up that organized that discipline, the organization, rather than just let personally, I just want to have any player take it because for all you know, Petrovic might take it. What's stopping him from doing that? Nah, you have your certain guys doing their certain roles, and that's how it should be. So, and I think he'll look at that, Nonny and Jackson, and be like, "Well, not a good look."
I hope so, but I think a good point that was made as well online is that what he should have done, he should have just hooked him straight away. Double sub, Jackson, Nonny off. Because that would have just set the message clear. Definitely. I know he was very adamant in the post-match interview and the press conference, which he ended early because he just was tired of questions about the same thing. But he was adamant that it was embarrassing, it was disgraceful, and it will not happen again. He's told the players, Palmer's a penalty taker, and that's that.
Yeah, but the situation's already happened. Already happened.
But he's told about it before. That's the thing. And I think the point he made is that they knew from pre-game, they know from training, the penalty taker is Palmer. The fact that they've done it again in the match, that's why he was like I'm going to tell them beyond doubt now, this is the end. This is not going to happen again, because it's not just like it's embarrassing. It shows poor team unity. And at the end of the day, with where you are in the table, it just kind of amplifies this perception people have about Chelsea that it's a mess. When your players are arguing over who to take a penalty, when like would Noni have scored? Who knows? But it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's
It's not his to take.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing. What's your hot take for this week?
Arsenal should go to Harry Kane.
Wow.
Why not?
I can't see it happening for numerous reasons. It's a Tottenham player, former Tottenham player. I think that will just really tarnish their everything.
So was Sol Campbell.
Yeah, but Sol Campbell was different circumstances, and he came direct. So, like, if Kane had come direct to Arsenal and he left Spurs, that would, of course, run it back. But we'll see. I doubt it because of his age, and I think we'll see. Never say never, but I think it's an impossibility. I don't see Bayern Munich selling him. I think the money that they would want for him, we wouldn't pay. But that's an interesting one. Definitely not possible, but you never know in this world. So one thing I want to talk about, just as our final point for today, is the run in itself in the title race. And what's interesting is that Man City don't play again until the 25th of April. And Arsenal have 2 games before that. Liverpool have 1, and then they both play on 24th. So Arsenal play Wolves first on the 20th, and then Chelsea on the 23rd. Arsenal potentially could go back top and have a bit of a gap on Man City if they win both those games, and create a little bit of pressure for Man City to try and have to fight back against, and considering Man City's game then on 25th against Brighton, that might be a good thing going into it. Obviously, for Liverpool, they have Fulham, Everton, West Ham, Tottenham, Villa, and then Wolves as their final game. Still a lot to play for. And I think with Man City, you'd expect them to get all the points. But Nottingham Forest, Wolves, depending on how the table's looking, those could cause them some serious problems. Wolves have been very good this year. Inconsistent, but good. Forest both of them have been hard done by. And they've put in good performances against teams. Fulham are a weird one because they've got nothing to play for, but they might turn up. And then you got Tottenham, who will have Champions League in mind. And if it's still there for them as a second to last game of the season, they might make a big push. And with West Ham, it just depends with West Ham what they're doing. Is like they might want to be higher up the table. I don't know, but there's a couple games which could be tricky. I guess for you, what game do you think would be the main one that they'd want to watch out for?
Man City, I'm looking at Spurs because they've always found Spurs a bit of a sticky one to get around.
And it is at the London State, the Spurs Bowl. Call it that.
I was going to say something else, but it's
Yeah.
fine. That could be like you said, they're playing for Champions League, and if they'll like to stick it to their rivals, even if it could potentially mean giving their rivals a Premier League title. It might be that bad at the point that we'd rather see a different team win rather than Man City. So Tottenham is one. Was Brighton home or away?
Brighton is away at the Amex.
Is away. I know you whooped them, but that doesn't mean they won't turn up. They're a good footballing side. They might find it a bit shocky. You find with this year with Man City, they haven't had it their own way. I know they had Luton 5-1, but it wasn't a 5-1 performance. It just I had 5 chances and necked them. Like they're not the indestructibles they once were. They have weaknesses and they've been found. So Brighton and Luton, I think, are 2 that are going to be a bit sticky for them.
Yeah,
Bit sticky.
I think someone like a Wolves or Forest could also be another potential banana peel. I'm not expecting it, but I think there'll be a team that you wouldn't expect to get a result that could do it against Man City, and then that will throw this whole thing wide open. As for Arsenal, we just got to get back to what we were doing before these last few games and just get the wins in. All these games have different tricky points to them, but if we want to win the league, we just got to step up. And Man United, we owe you guys a proper spanking. We owe you one. So Old Trafford, we owe you one. We'll show Liverpool how it's done. And as for Liverpool, still not all over for them. They've got Fulham, Everton, West Ham, Tottenham, Villa, and Wolves. So again, they could also do something interesting in this run-in, but it's going to be a real interesting one. I guess for you, as our final thing for today, who is your player of the season for your club, your manager of the season between our clubs, and most improved player for your club?
Player of the season, that's easy. That's Cole Palmer. Like, you would have told me at 42 million right towards the end of the window, this Man City academy, prospect would have come over and done what he did. I would have bitten your hand off. But he has properly, put kept that weight on the back of his shoulders and just led through as such a good example. So he's 100% our my player of the season. You said
Manager of the season between our clubs. So that's between Klopp, Arteta, and Pochettino.
I'm not giving it to Pep.
No, between our clubs.
Okay,
Just our three clubs of the podcast, yeah.
I mean, it's not hard. It's hard to look outside Arteta maybe because you're better than last year. You are even from where you are, despite the fact that you were so ahead for so long last season. This year, you've just been that little bit more efficient, and the fact that you went through up until mid-April before you lost a Premier League game, that's something that you can be proud of.
Yeah. And who's the most improved player for Chelsea?
Most improved player is gonna be. I'm gonna say Cucurella.
Fair enough.
I'm going to say Cucurella, just slightly from where, especially from where he was at Brighton, from where he was last year, which at one point he could have been out the door and I've been fine with it. He's made that spot his own to the point that Chilwell can't even get a look in.
That's a fact. As for me, my player of the season for Arsenal, Martin Odegaard. I think other players would have been a good candidate, but I feel like as a captain, the way he stepped up this year has just been exceptional, and I'm just impressed with him every single match day. Manager of the season, I think, either Klopp or Arteta, but I'll give it to Arteta this year because I think he's taken us a bit further. We'll see what Jurgen does. Most improved player for Arsenal. It's a bit of a hard one because there's players who have been consistent. Obviously, I can't pick any new signings because it's kind of what they were brought in for. But I'll probably give it to Kivior. I think there was a lot of question marks over him from last season. I think some fans didn't quite know why we'd bought him. But I think this year he's shown his value in the team. So he's our most improved player. And that's that from us. We'll see how Arsenal do, or how Arsenal have done against Bayern Munich. Also how Man City have done against Real Madrid. And we'll look forward to the next set of fixtures. And we'll be back to react on the weekend's game on the next episode. See you all next time.
Peace.